The river doesn't care who owns it. It doesn't vote. It doesn't swear anybody in. It doesn't care who went broke in 1837 or who stayed long enough to watch the town change. It just moves. And in 1843, Rockford makes two decisions that change everything: a bridge and a dam. Because once you control crossing and once you control flow, you don't need to control people the loud way. Hey there, how are you doing? My name is Angel, and I like all things that are mysterious, right? Do you know what's mysterious today? Nobody is watching anymore. And the scariest things always happen when people stop paying attention. This is 1843. Rockford is still a village, not a city, so power isn't wearing a mayor's title yet. It's operating through permissions, paperwork, and who gets authorized to build what. And 1843 is one of those paper years that doesn't sound exciting until you realize paper years are the years that decide the future. On February 27, 1843, Rockford is authorized by the state legislature to build a bridge across the Rock River. And here's why I want you to feel the weight of that. A bridge is not just convenience. A bridge decides where trade flows, where growth favors, which side becomes worth more, and who gets left behind on the wrong side of the river. If you control crossing, you control movement, and movement is money. Because the first people to profit from a bridge are never the people walking across it. They're the people who already own what's near it. The very next day, February 28th, 1843, the Illinois state legislature approves an act to improve navigation at the rapids and incorporates the Rockford Hydraulic and Manufacturing Company. And that company is given power to construct a dam, raising water not more than 7 feet. Read that again. A company is granted permission to control water. This is where water is scenery ends. This is water is power. Because whoever controls the flow controls where mills can run, who can build industry, what land becomes valuable, who gets opportunity, and who gets shut out. And 1843 is the year that idea becomes official. Not rumor, not vision, law. Now here's the part I'm going to say carefully, because we don't invent relationships. When a new power system forms, like a bridge authorization and a water power corporation, the beneficiaries are almost always the people holding land, the people already positioned near the river, the people already in business circles, and then their kids inherit position. That's how nepo babies get made, without ever earning it. 1843 is the setup year. The names that attach to this early water power system becomes the names you see later. And we already have receipts for some of those names, because the minute the dam construction starts later, names appear. But the legal birth is here. Before we move on, I need to tie a clean knot, because this is a case file, not folklore. Kent was financially ruined after the panic beginning in 1837, and sources commonly place his departure from Rockford in 1844, sometimes 1843 or 44, depending on the account. So in 1843, we do not frame Kent as the rising power. 1843 is the year Rockford proves something colder. Even when an early founder gets wiped out, the system keeps moving. The river still flows. The paperwork still gets signed. The next names step in. Once the water power is authorized, the town begins pivoting towards production. And here's a key receipt from the historical narrative tied to this water power push. Gregory, Phillips, and Daniels are named as building a sawmill at the head of a race connected to a dam-era water power system. And this is exactly what we're always looking for. When systems form, the same type of names start clustering. Builders, mill operators, mechanics, people who profit from motion and output. This is how Rockford shifts from a settlement into a place that will later become a manufacturing city, one permission at a time. Now this right here is one of those events that sounds boring, but it is foundational. On October 30th, 1843, a land sale is held to clear property titles connected to the Polish claims of 1836. Translation: this is the system correcting itself. If titles are messy, investment slows. If investment slows, the bridge and water power plants stall. So clearing titles is not just paperwork, it's permission for the future. And it matters because every time you see title clearing, what you are really seeing is control over who gets to own what next. And ownership becomes legacy. Legacy becomes nepotism. Now here's another key line in the 1843 record. The record notes that in 1843, the first foundry and machine shop opened. This matters because it shows the town is shifting away from only survival economies. A foundry and a machine shop means specialized labor, tools, repair, manufacturing capacity, the early skeleton of what Rockford becomes later. And once machinery enters the identity of a town, it changes the people who come here. It changes the skills that matter. And it changes who gets rich. We end 1843 standing on a threshold. Because the incorporation happens in 1843, but the physical dam work begins shortly after. And the next receipts name names that matter later. Edward S. Hanchett starts construction spring 1844, later succeeded by C.C. Coburn. I'm not turning 1843 into 1844. I'm just showing you why these names matter. Because once construction starts, the record starts naming who is building the future. And those are the names you watch for. Nepo baby legacy lines later. While Rockford is authorizing bridges and dam power, America is still deep in the long economic hangover of the Panic of 1837, which shaped credit, expansion, and confidence through the early 1840s. And in 1843 specifically, thousands head west in the Great Migration of 1843 along the Oregon Trail, one of the big population movement moments of the decade. Why does that matter to Rockford? Because towns like Rockford exist in the same national current. Movement, settlement, infrastructure, land title battles, progress justified by paperwork. This is the era that normalizes building systems first and asking questions later. And speaking of currents, 1843 also included documented flooding events in the U.S. record. For example, a September 1843 flood event summary compiled in NOAA NWS historical materials. I'm not claiming that flood happened in Rockford. I'm showing you the larger truth. In the 1840s, water is both a power source and a threat. And communities that think they can control it learn fast that water always collects a price. Here's the part most people miss when they look back at a year like 1843. Nothing in this year looks evil. Nothing looks dramatic. Nothing looks like corruption. But look at what actually gets decided. In 1843, Rockford learns that power doesn't need elections. It needs permission, paperwork, infrastructure. A bridge is authorized. A dam is approved. Land titles are cleaned up. Those three things decide everything that comes after. Because once you decide where people can cross, who controls the flow of water, who legally owns the land, you decide where jobs go, which neighborhoods grow, which ones get ignored, who accumulates wealth, and who stays stuck working for it. That's not theory, that's math. In 1843, Rockford sets a precedent. Power is allowed to concentrate quietly as long as it's framed as progress. No public vote, no town-wide debate, just approvals. And in 2026, that same model still runs through the city. Only now it looks like redevelopment authorities, tax increment financing, corporate partnerships, demolition justified as revitalization, historic buildings torn down for economic growth. The language changes, the structure doesn't. In 1843, the people who benefit first are landholders near the river, builders tied to infrastructure, and families positioned close to decision-making. Their children inherit position, not just property. That's where the nepo baby problem actually starts. Not with spoiled kids, but with inherited access, inherited proximity, inherited advantage. No one wakes up in 1900, 1950, or 2026 and says, let's rig the system. They just keep using the one that was already built. And here's the quietest, most unsettling part. In 1843, nobody thinks to question any of this. Because it all sounds reasonable. We need a bridge. We need industry. We need jobs. And in 2026, we hear the exact same phrases. Different projects, same logic. The river still flows. The system still feeds itself. And most people still aren't watching. 1843 didn't create corruption. It created the blueprint. And once a blueprint exists, every generation after just builds on it. And in 1844, we're going to watch what happens when paperwork turns into physical reality. Because once a dam is approved, somebody has to build it. And that's when the names stop whispering and start leaving fingerprints. And on that note, if you liked this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. And as always, I truly appreciate you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.